Hi, I'm Ed Wilkinson, and welcome to On the Block. Today we're here in Richmond Hill at Holy Child Jesus Parish, and we're with the parish administrator, Father Chris Heanue. Father Chris, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So I understand that your first Christmas here, something really exciting happened to you.
My first Christmas here, a newborn baby, a 2-hour-old baby, was found literally in our church manger.
Wow. And I know it made the headlines, but we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. Right now I want to talk to you about 2 years out, ordained. You're a young guy. You're in a beautiful place here with a big parish plant. You have a bishop as a pastor. I mean, what did you do to deserve all this?
I don't know if there are hidden cameras around watching me because, yeah, it's quite an unreal position. Even prior to my ordination as a transitional deacon, I was assigned to the parish. Kind of as not really
kind of. Nobody, you didn't tell anybody. You were just doing it, right?
Yeah, as administrator, and with a parish school, with a plant that needs a lot of work, with a bishop, as you said, an auxiliary bishop as my pastor, looking over, watching, making sure that things are going well. It was unusual, totally unusual.
So, you know, you're training, you're in the seminary, you're studying theology. I mean, you're not studying for an MBA. You come out and all of a sudden they put you in charge of keeping all these books here. You wanted to do some pastoral work. How do you make that transition to something like this?
In the beginning, it was exhausting, and I would go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night, completely wrecked, completely exhausted, just trying to figure out how am I going to do this. And 2 years later, the church is still standing. There's still money in the bank, thank God. We're doing a great job with our school enrollment. We're doing a great job trying to continue the excitement of our Catholic faith here in Richmond Hill. And I can stay up past 9 o'clock and not be exhausted at the end of the day.
But I've heard you've written some checks that have a lot more zeros on it than you ever even imagined, right?
Ever see in my life. Last summer, we had the Generations of Faith campaign here in the diocese, and our parish goal was 600,000, 645,000. And the beauty of these parishioners, I mean, this parish is very special, and I know I'm sure priests say that about every parish, but I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously biased, but the people here are great. We raised $1.4 million, and we began work on waterproofing and structural work on the tower, words that I would never have even known in my life, coping stones and parapet walls and repointing and grout work and et cetera, et cetera. So much so that we phased out the work, and $1.6 million later, phase 1 is complete. Phase 1, writing checks for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Well, how do you keep your mind though on pastoral work? I mean, obviously you're a priest, you're ordained here to be a priest to the people in Richmond Hill. How do you keep your focus on that and maintain a balance between what you have to do administratively and, you know, as a priest?
I look at it as like the guy who has to balance all the plates, you know, on the sticks. And while there's a time and a place for the office work where I have to make sure that the work at hand gets done, the fundraising gets done, the parish letters get done, the bookkeeping is done, making sure that our staff are happy and working well. There's also a place for school work, and we have, thank God, a thriving academy here, which is celebrating its 100th year of education, Catholic education in Richmond Hill. So we have a thriving school, which that is for me my way of just removing myself from the office, getting some sanity, hanging out with the kids, just spending time in the classrooms, walking through the halls. All of the grades are great, you know, to be with the 8th graders who are preparing for high school and growing and maturing, to talk about real issues with them, you know, that perhaps they don't get a chance to talk about at home, and perhaps they don't want to ask their teachers.
What do they bring up to you? What are they asking you about?
They're asking like sincere questions about obviously peer pressure, but peer pressure is much different than it was even when I was a kid, and I'm only, you know, 15 years older than they are. There's a lot of cyber issues when it comes to these different apps and social media outlets where they can be bullied and they can feel pressured to send photos and just to do things that they normally wouldn't do. So trying to give them the strength and the courage to resist those types of peer pressure, to talk to them about power of sin and temptation and the power of the evil one. These are things that they really want to know, and they really want to
How do you even get their attention, though? Because, I mean, I've sat at a table with young people, and they're all doing this. You know, they've got their phones, they got all these sites, and they're talking to their friends, and they say, who am I talking to here? You know, I mean, how do you get their attention?
I take my phone and I like to I just take it and I throw it up in the air and I just drop it, and they all stop and they're like, breath is gone. They think, oh, the phone, your phone, it's cracked, it's dead. And I just to prove to them that life is more important than, you know, all right, maybe I have a cracked screen.
That's a tragedy in most kids'
lives. That's a tragedy. That's how could I live? You know, and to show them that life is much more important. I too am a little bit of attention deficit. I mean, I'm just like them, so I can change the topic as quickly as they can lose their train of thought. So we work very well together that way. I'm still a little bit immature in those sense.
So in addition to the school, you must have other programs here for young people to stay in contact with them. Do you have sports programs here?
We have a huge sports program, CYO sports programs, soccer teams, volleyball teams, basketball teams that are just constantly, I mean, our gym is never ever unused. It's always being used. We have, in the summer months, we have a teen drama group which invites hundreds of kids from all around, really the city, to come and perform a play. They spend the whole summer, they build the stage, they practice, they choreograph themselves with the leadership of some, you know, talented people. I'm there every night. I try to
you're
stop
present.
in.
That's a point of contact for you, right?
Yeah, you got to be with them, and I enjoy it. I mean, I prefer much more to be with them than to sit in my office and to deal with just, you know, the necessary but yet boring and not really pastoral in a sense tasks at hand. You know, I prefer much more to be with the people.
Sure. A lot of people these days, some don't even see a value in having a sports program, or they say, well, there's a lot of people coming from outside the parish. But that really gives the church a point of entry to get into these people's lives, right? I mean, is that the way you view it?
I do. I mean, I invite all of the sports teams to Mass. Every year they each get to come to Mass. I bring them up to the front of the altar. We clap for them. We pray for them. You know, that they'll do well. When they come in, this year we had one of our teams go into the championships, which was the first time in like 50 years that, you know, that they'd ever been in the championships. So we brought them in. They came in second place. That's all right. But we brought them in. We applauded them. We were grateful for them. Same thing with the teen drama. Right before the weekend before they put on their show, I said, come over to the church. First of all, they should be going to Mass anyway, but we can't really take that for granted anymore. So I bring them over. They enjoy it. I direct the homily toward them or for them. I kind of lower it a little bit to make it a little bit more understanding for them, the homily of itself. And then they get to encounter Jesus, which is the most important.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back with Father Chris Heanue. We're going to find out a little bit more about his personal road to priesthood. Welcome back to On the Block. We're in Richmond Hill today with Father Chris Heanue. So I want to talk a little bit about the idea of priesthood and where it came from for you personally. You come from a particularly religious family?
A good Irish Catholic family. We're all union members. Father's a carpenter, my brother's a cop, my sister's a school teacher, my other brother's an electrician, so of course they needed to give one to the church.
So they got me.
And no, I mean, growing up, my parents, we never missed Mass ever on a Sunday. We were always at Mass, no matter whether it was at St. Mary Winfield, my home parish, or if we missed the morning Masses, we'd go to St. Sebastian's for the 6 p.m. Mass that Sunday night, and if we even missed that, we'd go into St. Jane the Baptist in the city in Lexington Avenue, and we'd go to the 7:30 p.m. Mass there. So no matter where we were, we always went to Mass. But they weren't involved. I was never an altar server.
Never? Because you went to public school.
I was a public school student, and I was a religious ed product of religious education.
So there were no nuns there to put the seed of a vocation into your head?
No. I was spared any kind of any of that. I mean, my priest growing up was Father Don Barron, and he was a great inspiration for me. Just for some reason. I mean, by his example. I mean, he was always smiling. He was always very happy. and
He's still alive. You
he's
said.
still.
You mentioned in the past.
Yeah, he is still always smiling. Actually, and it's funny now that I'm here. Father Don Barron is just down the block at Our Lady of Perpetual Help, so it's awesome to be so close to, kind of the inspiration that begun it. I had Father Monsignor Calise as a priest in my parish growing up, and as luck would have it, or as God's plan or God's providence would have it, Monsignor Calise was my rector in Cathedral Prep.
Well, how did you find Cathedral Prep? I mean, how did you find out about this place? I mean, it's the Prep Seminary. You're transitioning from public school and you're going into the Prep Seminary for high school. Where did that idea come?
It was a huge transition. So all of my siblings, they all went to Catholic school growing up. I'm the youngest of the four of us, and they all went to Catholic school, St. Raphael's Catholic School growing up in Sunnyside. I grew up many years later. I'm 13 years younger than my next sibling, so I'm the blessing of the family. And my sister was becoming a public school teacher at the time, and she told my parents, listen, try this out. Public school is the way to go. He's going to be taught so much more. She was giving her life now to public
job
school.
Security.
She needed that. She wanted a pupil. Yeah. And so that's what they did. They put me to public school. My brothers went to Molloy, and I was basically groomed to go to Molloy. Everyone said, you're going to Molloy, you're following in the tradition of the Heanue brothers, as if that was a great tradition, but it was just the two of them. And I went for an open house to Cathedral Prep, and I fell in love with it. As you walk through the doors, there's this beautiful statue of our Blessed Mother, and I just felt like this is home. And I had been in large schools. I mean, both of my grammar schools, both PS and intermediate school, 1,000 kids. I mean, I wanted something different, and I really got something different. We went from 1,000 kids to 200.
So you were convinced you were going to be a priest?
No, and that was something my family said. Well, you don't have to be a priest, if you go there. And I said, nah, yeah, exactly. I'm going for a good education. Junior year of high school, we went on a retreat, and it was, I guess, apart from like Boy Scout camp, it was the first time I had been away from my family for a good period of time, but with prayer at its center. And it was stationed, we were in Huntington, which was at the time the major seminary. And I fell in love more aesthetically with the building. I fell in love with the grounds, with the 200 acres. I fell in love with the quiet. I fell in love with the peace. And I said to myself at that point, whatever I have to do to live here, that's what I'm going to do. And as you know, Ed,
you never got there
that way. It did not work that way. So
God and the bishop had other plans.
Yeah, God and the bishop certainly had other plans. From Cathedral Prep, myself and 4 other students, the largest class. You interviewed us back then. I'm sure your memory, you can remember it. I'll recall it for you. We were called the Fab Five. We were the 5 guys going into Douglaston. It was the largest class to ever leave Cathedral. And almost since then it's been the largest too. And of the 5, 3 of us were ordained. And the other 2 discerned out, which was what discernment is meant to do. And from Douglaston, 4 years I loved in Douglaston with the then Monsignor Cisneros, who is now my rector and now my pastor. He was my rector, he's now my pastor. Monsignor and I, Bishop Cisneros and I, really got to know each other because I'd sleep in for Mass a lot in Douglaston. And if you missed Mass, you had to personally report to him why. So he got to see me a lot. And now when I don't miss Mass here, that's for sure. But if I did, I'd have to report back to him.
Well, how about going through college, though? Did you have some doubts about whether or not you should stick on this road or not?
Every year, at the end of the year, I'd say, at the beginning of the year, I'd say, let's just give it one more year. We'll just give it one more year. We'll see how it goes. Keep our options open, just see what's going on. Even in college, I minored in business because I figured, all right, if I do the priesthood and if this is what God really wants for me, eventually I'm going to have to do some sort of business work. I knew that bookkeeping was going to be part of it, that managerial skills was going to be part of it. So I minored in business and studied some languages too, because again I thought it can't hurt. You know, this is a diocese of immigrants. I love languages, I love studying. So that's what we did.
So then when you got out of college, then the bishop decided that you were not going to go to Huntington.
That's for sure,
right?
yeah.
Where'd you wind up?
I wound up in Rome, which is not too bad a place to wind up. People were saying, you know, when I'd say, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed I never really got to go to Huntington. They'd say, just listen to that, what you just said. You were disappointed that you didn't get to go to Huntington, Long Island, but instead you were sent to Rome. I enjoyed my time in Rome, but as a 21-year-old in Rome, studying, you know, graduate level theology in Italian, studying Greek in Italian, studying, living at this like fort of a place, the North American College, thousands of miles away from your home, from your family. It just really, at that time, it wasn't a place for me. And thanks to Bishop DiMarzio for his constant support, he allowed me to come home.
He decided you still weren't going to go to Huntington. Right?
That's for sure. Yeah. Again, I mean, God and Bishop have a great plan in mind. On my way home, I thought, finally, now I'm going to get this is my chance to go to Huntington. And I came home and he said, all right, well, you're not going to Huntington. You're going to Philadelphia, to St. Charles Borromeo, where at the time, I'd be able to get the same degree that I was getting, a pontifical degree, you know, what they call the STL and the STD. So I was sent down to Philly. I loved my time down in Philly. That was a great, really cool experience.
We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, I want to get back to that first Christmas here in the parish.
Sure
so
thing.
We're going to come right back with Father Chris Heanue. Stay right where you are. Welcome back to On the Block. I'm Ed. This is Father Chris, and we teased the audience a little bit before about the first Christmas you were here, and there was a miracle package left for you. Tell us about that. What happened?
It was all over the news.
Yes.
All over the news.
You were very famous.
I was for a brief moment. It was my 15 minutes of fame, and they've since died out. First Christmas here, November. It was right before Thanksgiving. We weren't even at Christmas yet. It was November. And I was walking through the church, and I noticed our maintenance men were putting up the nativity scene. It's not even Thanksgiving yet. And I said, there's something wrong going on here. But I let them continue. I had a meeting and I went and they put up that scene pretty quickly. So I'm in a meeting in my office and I get a phone call and my phone's just like going off the hook and I wouldn't pick it up because I'm with people. So I get a knock at the door from my secretary. Father, our maintenance man needs to see you. There's an emergency in the church. I said, okay. He said, yeah, there's un niño en la iglesia. There's a boy in the church. So a niño could be anything, you know. I thought maybe one of the kids perhaps from the school, maybe we have a lot of young families on our block, maybe one of the boys just walked in or whatever. So we run in and there's this 2-hour-old, at least, child, umbilical cord still attached, wrapped in a towel, a damp, wet towel, of course, from the, you know, and just laying there in the manger, just placed right in the center of this scene. So we called 911 and called the school nurse to come over. She tied the umbilical cord. I got new clean towels from my room, wrapped him in new towels, and the rest is history. That was on a Monday, and by Tuesday, every news outlet was just all over the block.
You were looking for the mother, right? At that point?
At that point, they were looking for the mother. They didn't know if she had followed the rules of like the safe haven, where she's supposed to really kind of tell or notify someone that she had left the child. Of course, the church is a safe haven, but when we were able to look at the cameras and to see what was going on, we noticed that that the child had only been really left alone for about 15 minutes. It was really quite coincident. It was quite beautiful. It was really providential how it worked out. So from that moment on, when they heard that it was an Irish priest, then I was getting phone calls from radio stations in Ireland. Oh, a son of Ireland found, you know, saves a baby. And Cardinal Dolan mentions it in his pro-life homily down at the National Shrine.
Did you know that he was going to talk about that?
I had just received a phone call about 10 minutes before from his communications director, who was a friend of mine, who was a parishioner of mine in Astoria when I was stationed in Astoria. And she said, Father Chris, you might want to turn on the TV, you know, if you can. I said, all right, because I wasn't down there. And his quote was, "Let every parish be like Holy Child Jesus," because our doors were open and the mother felt welcome to bring her child here. And let every priest be like Father Christopher Ryan Heanue. And I received a lot of flack for that, because if he only knew. But it was really a wonderful, wonderful story.
Did you find the mother?
The police found the mother. She was not charged. She was a young immigrant woman from Mexico who really hid her pregnancy the whole time and birthed the child on her own, brought the child here on her own. So really, you just have to, you know, pray for her and feel for her. The baby was placed in adoption, and is, from what I know, and you know, there's of course confidentiality rules, etc. But from what I've been told, the baby has been adopted.
So the mother gave the baby up.
That's right.
And it was adopted.
Yeah.
What does that say, though, that the mother thought of coming to the church? I mean, this was a problem for her at this point, right, in her life?
Yeah.
This was a traumatic moment, but she came to the church.
She did. I loved it, because so often, you know, in the news, whenever the church is in the news, it's generally not for a good thing. And we were in the news for a great thing. I mean, only if you had some sort of negative way of trying to twist this story, but there was really no negative way of twisting this story. She was a mother in need who found in the church a home for her child. She placed the child where our Lord Jesus would be placed, in the manger, in front of the beautiful statue of our Blessed Mother, like under her mantle, under her protection. So it was great. I was so happy to be able to promote that story, because there's women in crisis that can recognize now that they can find the church as a place of refuge.
Was the baby baptized?
Well, we didn't baptize. The baby was not in danger of death. There was no fear of that, so the baby was not baptized. The baby was blessed, but not baptized. I mean,
So that's really up to the adoptive parents if they want to have the child baptized,
True,
right?
true. We pray.
It's a church of surprises, a ministry of surprises. Anything else surprise you about being a priest these past 2 years?
Well, everything. Every day is a new day. I mean, every day is something new that I'm learning. When I was told that I was coming here, that was one of the largest surprises. To replace a priest and not even ordained a priest. I mean, this is really, I told our parishioners, this is the crisis of vocations. I said, look at me, I'm 27 at the time, years old, and I'm running your parish. I said, we need to pray now more than ever for vocations. My first week here, there was a science experiment that went awry, and this chemical went gaseous, and 20 kids were brought to the hospital. Hazmat fire department was here. My first week, so I knew from that moment on, there's never going to be a dull moment here at Holy Child Jesus.
What would you say to a young man who came to you today and said, I'm thinking about being a priest?
I'd say there's truly, you know, as we're just talking, never a dull moment. Every day I do something different, whether it's, you know, visiting a new parishioner, having a new visit with a parishioner, blessing the sick, really being touched by the people, being brought into their lives, being invited to their houses for lunch or for dinner, really being incorporated into their families. Every day there's something new, and it's awesome.
So happy to talk with you today. We could keep on talking here for a while, but we've come to an end. Our time has come to an end. I want to thank you, Father Chris, for being with us, and thank all of you for being with us. Hope you enjoyed Father Heanue's story. Come back again next time. We'll have another story here on the block.